For the invocation and the pledge, I'm going to call on Commissioner Griner.
Dear Lord, just thank you for this wonderful, beautiful day you've given us, Lord. Just help us to have your wisdom tonight, Lord, and make the decisions for the county that you want us to make, Lord, and that benefit and glorify your name, Lord. And Lord, just thank you for the blessings you've given us as a city, as a county, as individuals. And just help us to use those to honor and glorify your name. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get in to our regular agenda, I'd like to take a moment and address the issue that we had in Lowndes County, certainly with Hurricane Irma as it came through. We had a substantial amount of damage. It could have been a whole lot worse than what it actually did turn out. We had a lot of trees down, a lot of folks was without power for quite some time. We had some with as much as a week. But I want to recognize certainly the Lowndes County staff and all of the folks, Public Works, Ashley Ty, the EMA director, Paige Dukes, our public information officer, and our clerk, with the fabulous job that they did trying to get the best information that they could out there to help citizens in our community make the best decisions about what they needed to do to be prepared for this storm. And I'm extremely proud of them for the job that they did, the effort that they did, not only preparing citizens for this storm that we had, but after the storm had passed and trying to get us back to some sort of normal life, you might say. I know at one point immediately following as the storm passed through, I believe we had close to over maybe 90 plus roads that actually had some blockage of some type. That was on Monday. By Tuesday afternoon, all but probably 26 roughly of those roads had been cleared and were passable. That was done by Public Works, public safety officials with the Sheriff's Department. It was done with volunteers that volunteer their time to serve the citizens of Lowndes County as volunteer firemen. So it was a huge effort by everybody to try to help the citizens and get things cleared back up. So I just wanted to take just a minute and personally, and I believe I could speak for the commission as well, to thank each and every one of you that were involved in trying to get us back, get our roads cleared up, get things straightened back out in this community. But it was a fabulous job that they did. It was almost seamless. I watched a good bit of it take place, and I was amazed at every turn about how they worked together to make this, to get us through this situation. So extremely proud of them, and I want to thank each and every one of them. At this time, I'd like to call on Mr. Ike Harbuck with Georgia Power. He'd like to come up and make a presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Bill and Commission. Appreciate y'all letting me be here tonight. I just wanted to take a second and just reiterate what you just said. The teamwork on behalf of the folks in Lowndes County here was exceptional. It allowed Georgia Power Company to get the lights back on quicker, in a more concerted effort, and in a manner that was reasonable for our customers. The teamwork that was involved in the partnerships that we had with the county was incredible and recognized from Atlanta, from our storm center, as South Georgia led the way in storm restoration efforts. And it wasn't because we were any more prepared in South Georgia. I think it was truly because of the teamwork that was displayed, the Sheriff's Department, the EMA director, the county facilities and utility folks willing to help, standing by wires down, doing whatever they could to help us get through the storm and prepare. our resources were so stretched thin because this storm hit every region of the state. We're used to storms affecting just one general area. We had to call in crews from 28 different states. We had 3 different contractors come in from Canada to help. And so that'll tell you a little bit about exactly how stressed our resources were. So just wanted to express my appreciation to the county and to all the employees at the county who helped us get through the storm and serve our customers. I do have an appreciation thank you letter.
Thank you.
There were 2 people within the county that really stood out that I was in constant contact with, that really helped us through our storm damage situation, helped customers and your constituents out in the county that otherwise may not have been able to get any help. From live wires on the ground to senior citizens, homes out of power, and really struggling to realize and understand when they may come back on. And I can tell you, with Miss Paige Dukes, I emailed her, I think it was the first morning or just before the storm was over. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning, just expecting that whenever she got into work, she would be able to return my text or email or whatever it was. And I had an immediate response. And I can't specifically remember. I think there might have been a request to go look at something that might have been down or needed attention. And in the same situation with Mr. Ashley Ty, is he around? Is he here tonight? Ashley, would you come up and right behind me? I would ask that maybe if Paige and Ashley wouldn't mind coming. I'd like to present y'all with a plaque of appreciation from Georgia Power Company, just for the outstanding display of partnership and teamwork from the county. On behalf of Georgia Power, I really appreciate it. It was an exceptional job. I've been able to, thank you, Paige, we really appreciate your help and teamwork. It was an incredible display of professionalism.
Teamwork and appreciation goes both ways too. We're glad we got to work with you guys.
Yeah, I would add to that as well. Certainly, I know I experienced it myself, being without power for an extended period of time, but our utility companies pulled off a yeoman's effort, working as hard and as safely as they could possibly work to try to make sure that everybody got power restored as quickly as they could. So Ike from the county and that relationship and working together, you're right. Everybody working for the same effort does have a positive outcome in most all cases, and that's just proof of it. So thank Georgia Power for your efforts in getting utilities back to these citizens. Thank you very much. All right, Commissioners, inside your work packet, you'll find your work session minutes from August the 21st and your regular session minutes of August the 22nd. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 5A is an appointment to the South Georgia Community Service Board. Mr. Pritchard.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, Lowndes County has been made aware by the Community Service Board of a resignation of Mr. Sham Prahuit from that board. It would be necessary for the commission to appoint someone to fill that interim term.
Thank you. At this time, I will open it up for nominations, and with that, I would like to submit, in the form of a nomination, the name of Ms. Cindy Vickery to fill that slot. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll call the nominations, and Ms. Vickery is appointed by acclamation. Agenda item 5B is the Lowndes County Division of Family and Children's Services, DFACS. their board and Mr. Pritchard.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, likewise, we have a similar situation with the Department of Family and Children's Services. Dr. Martha Giddens has resigned from that seat, thereby leaving a vacant position needing to be filled.
Thank you, Mr. Pritchard. Also, I'll open this one up for nominations. Are there any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to recommend Rebecca Powell.
Okay, we have a nomination for Ms. Rebecca Powell. Are there any others? Okay, hearing none, then we as well can approve Ms. Becky or Rebecca Powell by acclamation. Okay, agenda item 6A is our first public hearing item. This is a rezoning case, REZ 2017-07, Tomlinson. It's on US Highway 41 South. The request is EA to RA. It has well and septic, and it involves 6.04 acres. Mr. Davenport.
Yes, sir, thank you. No updates for the commission since the work session yesterday. Ultimately, a recommendation of approval both from staff and the planning commission on this, and we believe it's ready for your consideration tonight.
Okay, do they have any questions for Mr. Davenport? Okay, we'll move into the public participation portion of the meeting, of the hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public participation portion of the meeting and turn it back over to the commissioners for your consideration.
Motion to approve this request.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the request. We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. If you would, please, we'll identify by raising your hand. All in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll now move to agenda item 6B. This is REZ 2017-08, West Ridge Business Park. It's CG to CH. It has water and sewer. It involves 0.84 acres. Mr. Davenport.
Yes, sir. Different location, but similar circumstances. Went through staff with a recommendation of approval. Same with the planning commission. No updates for the commission since the work session yesterday, and we believe it's ready for your consideration tonight.
Any questions for Mr. Davenport? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into the public hearing portion of it. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Jack Langdale, 701 North Patterson Street. I'm here on behalf of FWMS Properties, LLC. That entity is owned and controlled by Fleming Williams. He is proposing to build a warehouse to house his antique cars, use that seems consistent with the surrounding properties. I'm just here to answer any questions y'all may have.
Any questions for Mr. Langdale?
No question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this request? Hearing none, we'll close the public participation portion of the meeting and turn it back over to the commissioners for your consideration.
Motion to approve the request.
Do we have a motion to approve the request? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Again, signify by raising your hand. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 6C is REZ 2017-09. This is the Robert A. Register Estate. It's R1 to R10 and CG. It has water and sewer. Involves 126 acres. Mr. Davenport.
Yes, sir, thank you. Ultimately, really two updates on this particular case. The first, of course, is we received a petition Sunday evening with around 131 signatures of some concerned citizens in the area with their various reasons for concern. As a part of that, standard protocol with a petition is to produce a map. Have a copy of that map of the signatories. Dominantly, most of the signatories are in the area of the subject property. With that, you also see some additional information on that map. Beyond that map update, the significant update is just the Planning Commission met last night. I know a large number of the commissioners were there for that meeting. I'm glad for that attendance. I think that was very helpful. Ultimately, you had my notes sent out last night on that meeting about what happened and their recommendation, et cetera. If you need to see their recommendation in writing, we have those up on the slides as far as those conditions and the sixth condition that was under so much discussion regarding the green space. With that, I will try to keep it brief, but try to be ready for any questions the commission may have. Ultimately, what you do have is a recommendation from staff and a recent recommendation from the Planning Commission. And we do believe, should you want to move forward, it'll be ready for your consideration tonight.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Davenport? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move into the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Steve Sellers. I live at 410 Jackson Circle, Lake Park. First, I want to thank the commissioners for allowing me to come and speak. And I want to confirm that you each have a copy of the petition that was signed. If that's the case, just if you haven't, we have another copy here that I can pass around.
Everybody should have a copy.
Yes.
We've addressed the planning board a couple of times, and numerous members of the neighborhood have addressed the commissioners individually too, and arguments have been made in various nature. But I think it boils down to the neighborhood's concern of density. That's the primary concern that the neighborhood has, and rezoning this property would allow a minimum, based on the recommendations that were made last night, a minimum of 3 times the amount of what that property was zoned for originally, which was 1 dwelling per acre. And so the recommendation last night from the planning board presented you with 3 dwellings per acre. We find this this type of growth extraordinarily unusual for that small a town. I didn't look up the population of Lake Park, but I'm thinking it's about 700, the city of Lake Park, within the city limits. And so you're talking about the possibility of 250 to 350 homes in that area. And we feel as a neighborhood that, number one, the infrastructure of the neighborhood just cannot stand that type of influx of new homes in that area. We already have existing issues in the neighborhood with water runoff, traffic's getting heavier, and it is a golf cart community, and many of the citizens of that area enjoy the opportunity to be able to utilize those streets surrounding that property, that very large section of property, for recreation and personal use like that. One of the biggest issues that we have is the school, Lake Park Elementary, and we don't feel that Lake Park Elementary is capable of adding another 250, 300 students to their roll. And so we feel like that the school zone, school districts would have to be redrawn, and students would be transferred out, moved to various other schools. And right now the school is operating in a very successful manner, and we would like to keep it going like that. And so an influx of those amounts of students would create things like trailers, additional teacher issues, and so forth. Already we, in fact, I think on the petition you'll see 750 students enrolled with an average class size of 21 at that school. So those are our main 2 concerns that we have. But I also want to take my last minute and a half here to bring up a University of Georgia report that was done a while back, and you may see that listed as number 5 on the petition. And the title of that report was The Economic Costs of Developing for Local Governments. And in that report, they have proven that they found that in small rural towns and communities like Lake Park, growth of this nature outweighs the advantages of any tax advantages and income to the municipality. And the need for additional services and management totally outweighs that. And so for these reasons, 131 people signed this petition and asked for this board's consideration in rejecting the request for rezoning. Thank you.
1 second, sir, if you would,
Yes.
please. Any questions for Mr. Sellers?
On the school issue, as far as getting the school board, build another building to add on to the school to help solve problems with overcrowding. I mean, it's not just a situation where that's the only school building we have, so the redistricting, it's all going to be Lowndes County down there, so it's not a different district or not. I mean, I don't see where that plays into it.
Well-
Redistricting the school itself.
Well, our issue is more along the lines of the economic status, basically, of the families that are involved within the school system now. And so we would contend, as a neighborhood, we would contend that overdeveloping that large piece of ground would have a propensity to bring in a lower economically stable families, lower economy, lowering the economy value in that school system. And so consequently, we feel like test scores would drop considerably. Additional teaching methods would have to be implemented, perhaps after school methods and such. And we don't see where that is a viable, that the school can maintain the status that they're at now by injecting that number of students.
Okay, Commissioners, we'll allow one more question for Mr. Sellers if he might have it. If not, then we'll move on.
Where do we get the 250 to 300 new students is what I don't understand. Where does that logic come from? We're assuming that because we're adding houses here that Lake Park Elementary is going to immediately be the recipient of 2.2 kids per, whatever. I'm just wondering where you get that information.
Right. Well, we just base that on the number of homes that are possible to go into that area, 3 per acre. And so that's all we're basing that on.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sellers.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to allow 2 more speakers, so is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Glenn Gregory. My address is 3226 Stallings Road. And I'm here to speak as a property owner at Twin Lakes and the intent for us to build a house on Twin Lakes. And at the encouragement of many of the neighbors. And basically, in looking at the ULDC, we've got an R10 for low-density residential. Then we've got an R21 for medium-density residential. And then it goes to an R10 for suburban density residential. Well, you're going from a 1-acre lot that is zoned currently all the way down to a 10,000 square foot, which I know those requirements added on there could change that. But you're going from one extreme to another. And this property's been around for all this many years at R1, and apparently it's either the price is too high or there's not enough density there. So it seems to me that it would be logical to go to an R21 and require that it be put on county water and sewer. Also require that there be some open space and some green space for recreation of the children that are going to live in that community. And if you look around down there, I mean, you can see that that's an okay kind of density I mean, we don't need to stack there's been other examples of houses being stacked in there too much, and it's caused urban blight, and it should not be that way. So, yes, you're gonna get more customers on your water and sewer. Yes, you're gonna get more, taxes off of it. But yes, you got a responsibility to these existing people that have been down there paying taxes and the residents that are down there. And we need to honor that. We just simply need to honor that. And there can be a way to get more density for these people that want to rezone. And there can be a way for the community to come out of it without such a negative impact. And what Mr. Sellers has said has been very good, very, very well organized. And but I'm here to speak against it and just respectfully, of course. But you need to consider that you're going from a low density all the way over here to high density. And you got a zoning qualification or category to be able to put 21,000 square foot lots in there, which is half-acre lots. And that's a bunch of people. So, thank you very much. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Gregory? Okay, thank you, Mr. Gregory. Okay, one more speaker. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Blake Ellis. I live at 805 Teresa Drive. I could shoot a bow and arrow and hit any part of this property. I've lived there between 40 and 50 years, and I hate to say I can't remember which, but one of the things that I've noticed over the years is that in the wintertime, there's nobody down there. In the summertime, people everywhere. The number of people in Lake Park is going to be, or could be, increased by a tremendous amount if you pass this. You're being asked to increase the value of this property. It's as simple as that. If you pass this, they'll be able to sell the land for more money, possibly, and possibly not. But it'll sound better to a developer. And there is adequate land in Lake Park to build on. Not everybody can be on the lake because there's not, all the land is not on the lake. But this particular land is again, not on the lake. But it can be made to go on the lake with a few more requests. You can bring in a canal and put all this land on the lake. And if you do that, the lake can't handle it. So what I'm saying is that you're going to increase 100 possible families to 300 possible families. And you're going to increase all the problems that you have with water, sewer, streets, traffic, police, everything. It's not going to be just a little bit. It's going to be everything. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Ellis? No, sir. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Okay, we'll close the opposition side. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, Nathan Smith with the Herndon Company. Address is 3890 Island Creek Road, Valdosta, Georgia, 31601. I'm here representing the seller who's here today, Miss Register, and she's owned the property for 60 years, and basically, we're trying to zone it to R10 from R1, and originally with some commercial on the front. And it's important to point out that, after our first planning commission meeting, we listened to the concerns, and what we're trying to do is really improve the property from where it is, just a field. And, lost my train of thought here right quick, but it just, to me, it's important to bring out these conditions after listening to the concerns, because, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We sure don't want to bring home values down. And so one of the things we did is we withdrew the 15 acres of commercial off of there. Another thing that needs to be pointed out is, there's no lake access to this property whatsoever. There's no lake access. Another condition we added, that there'll be no mobile homes or modular homes or duplexes on this property. Another thing is, instead of 4 houses to an acre, which allows an R10 zoning, we go into 3 houses to an acre. And every property that surrounds this is R10 now. And we just want the lady, that owns the property, has been paying tax for 60 years, to have the same opportunity everybody has to sell the property. So that's important to know. And also, we're accepting the county's recommendation that all the driveways would be interior roads with no roads going to the outside. And it's very important to point out with this property, the way it sits now, with R1 zoning, we could, the owner could put, 80-foot lots to the outside of all the roads with mobile homes. But that's not what we want. We want an improvement of this property. So anyways, that's where we're at. We've tried to listen to the the concerned citizens and change it in the best way we can, and still represent our client. So. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Smith?
I do.
Yes, sir.
Maybe more than one. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but is there a developer involved in this? Is there a developer in this situation?
At this time, no, there's not.
So you don't know if a potential buyer is going to want all this property or a portion of this property? You can assume she's trying to market it towards a single buyer to develop the entire property. What I'm getting to is, would it not be most beneficial to her to have a developer with a solid plan come in and present this? I think, and I'm speculating here, but I think part of the concern may be that folks don't know who that developer is, and somebody with a local gentleman or woman with integrity and some history to them. I think if that person were involved in this project and process, I think everybody would feel a lot more comfortable. And I'm not saying, that.
Well, I agree. She come to us a few months ago, and they had a family meeting. Some of the people in her family, they wanted to rezone the property. So that's where it all started. And the question was, would it help it sell if we got the zoning that's like everything else around it? And, as a real estate professional, absolutely.
But how do you know that buyer doesn't want to do a planned development or doesn't want to do a section of R10 with some mixed R1 and?
Well, yeah, you don't know. You don't know.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Smith. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Brian Cooper, 1100 North Patterson Street. I just wanted to add a little to what Nathan said, and seems to be some of the concerns tonight is the look at the school and the development of this. Everyone's talking about 300 households, and that's possible. But if we look historically at a development of this size, it is going to take quite some time for this to all come online. It's not going to happen overnight. There'll all of a sudden be 300 households there. And that would give the school and the infrastructure time to be put in place to meet the requirements of this development. I mean, if you look at Creekwood and other developments that have been done in Lake Park or even in North Lowndes County, most of them are not sold out for almost a 10-year period of time. So it does take time for these things to come about. And with that time, there would be an opportunity to, improve the infrastructure if that was needed. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Cooper? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Okay, we'll close the public participation portion of the meeting at this time and turn it over to the commissioners for your consideration.
Chairman, I'm just trying to grasp the fact that there's property all around this piece of property that's already R10. It's already there. So it's not like we're taking property that's EA and changing it to R10. So I want to make the motion that because of the property that's already zoned around it, I'd like to make the motion to rezone it to R10 with the minimum lot size of 14,520 square feet or 1/3 acre lots. All the lots shall front the interior roads. Manufactured homes or mobile homes are not allowed. Two-family dwellings or duplexes are not allowed. And instead of the 13.7 acres on the front, zone CG, zone it R10 with the same stipulations, same conditions.
Okay, and that's a total of 5 conditions?
Yes, sir.
I've got it right, okay. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Weisenbaker. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll call the vote. Please signify by raising your hand. All in favor signify by aye. Or with raising your hand, I apologize. Okay, that's 3. All opposed? 2. Motion passes 3-2. Okay, we'll now move on to agenda item 6D. This is the Decorative Special Tax Lighting District, portions of Creekside West, Highway 122, 40 lots. Jason, we'll give him just a minute if anybody wants to leave at this time. Okay, Mr. Davenport.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ultimately, what this request is asking for is for approval of a decorative special tax lighting district. And really what we're asking for the commission is after the public hearing for consideration on the attached resolution. So we hopefully can move forward. The recommendation from staff is for approval of the resolution. No updates since the work session yesterday.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Davenport? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. I'm sorry, public hearing. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll open up the public hearing portion of it. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Hearing none, we'll now close the public participation portion of the meeting and turn it over to the commissioners for your consideration.
I move that we approve with the attached resolution.
We have a motion to approve the attached resolution. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. Signify by raising your hand, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6E is a public hearing in the renaming of Little Poppy Road. Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, sir. We have had a request by the developer of the Nelson Hill subdivision to change the name of one of the entrance roads from from Little Poppy Road to Nelson Hill North. There are no address points off of this road, so it will not affect anyone's change of address. So we have advertised this in the paper, and this is ready for a public hearing.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Fletcher? Okay, we'll move into the public hearing portion of it. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone speaking in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Hearing none, we'll close the public participation portion of the meeting and turn it back over to the commissioners for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we rename Little Poppy Road to Nelson Hill North.
Okay, we have a motion then to approve the resolution changing the name of Little Poppy Road to Nelson Hill North. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please signify by raising your hand. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item 6F is the beer, wine, and liquor license for Roy E. Taylor Sr. LLC, doing business as the New Rascals. Ms. Black? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. This is for the New Rascals, and it's for consumption on premise for beer, wine, and liquor, and this is due to a change of ownership.
Okay. Any questions? Okay. We'll move into the public hearing portion. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public participation portion of the meeting and turn it over to the commissioners for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the beer, wine, and liquor license.
We have a motion to approve the beer, wine, and liquor license. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Any opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 7A is the amended motorized cart ordinance. Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, sir. County staff has had a request to amend the motorized cart ordinance to add the Grove Point subdivision. We have updated the map since yesterday to include a short section of Dasher Grove Road as well as the roundabout that we discussed yesterday. So this is ready for your consideration.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, Mike, I had a question in regards to the hours of operation. I notice it says motorized carts may be operated on designated roads and according to this ordinance only during daylight hours. Does that mean they can't ride the carts at night or nightfall?
Yes, I'm assuming that's what it means, is that they shouldn't be riding them at night. It's saying during daylight hours. That's, yes, sir.
Daylight hours would be from sunup to sundown, whatever that time would be at the particular.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the amended motorized cart ordinance.
We have a motion then to approve the amended motorized cart ordinance. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7B is the abandonment of portions of Old Lake Park Road and Hickory Grove Road Southeast. Mr. Fletcher.
Yes, sir. Staff has received a request from the Langdale Company to consider abandoning a portion of Old Lake Park Road from its intersection with Zipper Road to the beginning of the asphalt pavement, which is approximately 1.7 miles long towards the south, that is shown on the attached drawing, as well as to abandon a portion of Hickory Grove Road Southeast
from Old Lake Park Road to its intersection with Bradford Road, 1.53 miles. Just a couple of information regarding the closing. Old Lake Park Road has an average vehicle count of 45 vehicles a day. Hickory Grove Road Southeast has 17 vehicles a day. And as you can see on the map here in front of you, there are numerous paved roads in and around this area. George Road, Highway 376, 41, Zipper Road is recently paved. Hickory Grove Road North is paved. So there are numerous paved roads that constituents can use if these roads were to be abandoned at a later date. So this is this is the evidence that we are presenting to you for consideration. So one or both of the determinations will need to be made to move forward with a public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Any questions from Mr. Fletcher? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, according to Georgia statute, it requires an initial determination that the section of the county road system has for any reason ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial public purpose is served by it, and that its removal from the county road system is otherwise in the best interest of the public.
Yes,
I make the motion that we approve this and start the process with the hearings, et cetera, what is necessary, advertising, to get this process rolling. I'd also like to point out that, like Mr. Fletcher said, there's 3 alternative routes. There's Old Lake Park Road to Zipper Road to 41 South, of course, then to Lake Park. There's Hickory Grove Road to Bradford Road to Highway 376 to Lake Park. And there's Johnston Road to Weisenbaker Road to Hickory Grove Road to Bradford Road to 376 and then into Lake Park. So this huge block is trisected really by these roads, and the ownership encompasses this whole section, this whole block of land.
Okay, so in your motion, then, your motion is making the determination that a section of the county road system has for any reason ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial purpose is served, or that its removal from the county road system is otherwise in the best public interest.
And both of them, both.
So you're saying both of them? Okay.
Yes.
All right. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries. Okay, agenda item 7C is the Baptist Village Sewer Service Request. Mr. Talvey.
Yes, sir. The county has received an extraterritorial request for sewer service for tax parcel 198-154 for approximately 13 acres owned by the Baptist Village in Lake Park. This parcel is currently located in the county water service area. Included in your packet is the request from Baptist Village, a map identifying the property, a request letter from the county to the city of Lake Park, and the extraterritorial extension agreement. In accordance with the SDS, the request from the county shall be sent to the city of Lake Park seeking approval of an extraterritorial extension of county sewer service to this property. Staff recommends the chairman be authorized to sign and deliver the letter and agreement.
Any questions for Mr. Stout? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we authorize yourself to sign and deliver attached letter and agreement.
Do we have a motion to authorize the chairman to sign and deliver the attached letter and agreement? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7D is the addendum to the Withlacoochee Flood Inundation Mapping Project. Mr. Ty.
Yes, sir. As we discussed yesterday, this is an addendum to an agreement for a flood inundation mapping project that the commission approved this time last year. This addendum would allow the USGS staff to have time to perform the quality control checks and take all the data they've collected and put it into a format that's suitable for publishing for public use. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Mr. Ty? Thank you, Mr. Ty. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve the request? Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a second? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7E is the USGS funding agreement for the Highway 122 stream gauge. Mr. Ty.
Yes, sir. Again, we discussed yesterday. This is an agreement that we bring before you every year. This agreement is to authorize us to continue, the USGS to continue maintaining the stream gauge on Highway 122 over the Little River. This is actually does represent a $150 decrease in maintenance cost over last year's. So again, we just request authorization for the chairman to sign the agreement so we can continue that project.
Any questions for Mr. Ty? Thank you, Mr. Ty. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the agreement.
We have a motion to approve the agreement and authorize the chairman to execute the funding agreement. Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7F is the Public Safety Information Technology purchase. Mr. Costi.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman. As mentioned yesterday morning, this is the purchase for the public safety software, hardware, and services that would affect and enhance the law enforcement and jail records management piece, the law enforcement mobile, fire and EMS mobile, electronic citations, E911 CAD, and enhanced civil service of warrants, just to name a few. This purchase does include an interface from the public safety software into the judicial software that you just approved last November. And this also includes a upgrade of the infrastructure hardware that will support this in the data centers.
Any questions for Mr. Costi?
I had one, perhaps for
Yes, sir.
Perhaps for you or Joe. I noticed it says the software from this service will be made available to police and fire departments of the cities of Valdosta, Behira, Remington, Lake Park, Eccles County, and Lake Park, and in the near county and so forth. I was just wondering, are they contributing, or are they going to pay for it, or help with it?
These entities that you refer to have been discussed by the 911 Advisory Board and the role that they will play in that. Each of those municipalities and county will be given that opportunity to participate in this. It is possible that this can be just added into the maintenance that is divided among all of those that are involved in the 911 system, and if such, they would participate that way, or they may be allowed to participate other ways. Ashley is chairman of that 911 advisory. He has met with IT on this. He has met with Danny on this. And so there are opportunities available, or will be opportunities available, for their input and their participation.
Okay. Appreciate it. I just was inquiring where they're going to financially participate.
I wouldn't speak on their behalf, but we will give them that opportunity.
What is the longevity or shelf life of this equipment?
Yes, sir, that's a great question. Actually, what we are looking forward to in this software is a policy that Tyler Technologies, which is who holds this software now, has put into place, and we actually enjoy it with our Eden systems. You may recall that we use Eden software for our ERP in finance throughout the county. We installed that in the mid-90s. In the mid-2000s. And we have yet to have to dump any more money into it for an upgrade. This policy is called Evergreen. And what this means is that as long as we maintain the software with an annual maintenance fee, all of the research and development and the additional packages that come out evermore, we will be able to install those for nothing. We have seen that in our Eden system, and we do expect to see that in this system. So the answer is, as long as we maintain it, we should never have to come and do a large forklift removal of the software again.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, we are fortunate enough to have two representatives from Tyler here with us in the audience tonight. If there's any additional questions or if they would like to comment on the question that has already been asked, they're available.
Okay. Commissioners, have any questions for the representatives? Gentlemen, have any comments you'd like to make? Please come forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Greg Wandre. I'm a resident of the state of Michigan. I'm a director with Tyler Technologies, and I welcome the opportunity to address you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The question that was just asked is a fantastic question, by the way, for municipalities that have to make large capital investments in technology, which is why, as Aaron had mentioned, we've taken the approach of once someone becomes a customer of ours, we never want them to have to go through that process again. We're very fortunate to have 14,000 other municipalities like yourselves around the country. We're the largest provider of this. And I'll cite an example for you. The city and county of Augusta, Richmond, Georgia selected our software over 30 years ago, and they have not had to pay additional software fees, and they're going to enjoy the same technology that is being considered here this evening. I'd like to say that in 30 years from now that I won't be here. Hopefully many of us won't be, but we invest tens and tens of millions of dollars every year building software just for local government. Our organization has over 1,000 software developers that every day they come to work. It's how do we make local governments more efficient, more proactive, and to make sure that they're current with technology. And we're thankful for the partnership we've had with the county to date, and we're very, very excited about extending it to include your first responders.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the $235,000 for the hardware support software and storage required, as well as the 10% contingency.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the request for the software for $235,000 for the hardware, the support software, storage required to support the suite, as well as the 10% contingency. Do we have a second?
I'm sorry, please allow me to clarify. The amount of the entire agenda item is $2,088,000. The 235.
I'm sorry, that's
Yes,
my
sir.
fault.
Okay.
I saw them back there looking a little concerned.
Okay.
What we got to do
Correct.
there?
Let me rephrase that.
We were getting a bargain. We had you right where we needed you.
Gentlemen, I did a good job of negotiating, but not that good.
So,
correct.
Rephrase that. I approve the $2,350,000 for the software.
Well, it's still not right.
$2,088,000.
Okay. $2,088,000. Somebody else put it down. I move that we approve the $2,088,000 plus a 10% contingency.
That number is all inclusive. The $2,088,000 does include the contingency and the hardware. So that would be all that I would request that you approve.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, then. We have a motion to approve the purchase of the software for $2,088,000. That includes the hardware, the support software, storage required to support the suite, as well as the 10% contingency.
Second.
Do we have a second? Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
No, please.
Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7G is the high enforcement of aggressive traffic known as heat. Mr. Adams?
Coming to y'all, good evening. The Sheriff's Department's asking that we continue the grant for the third year. It's, last 2 years, it's been funded 100% by Governor's Office of Highway Safety. This year, it would be funded 80%. We understand that, but we also added contingencies for the cars are now going to be 3 years old, so we added more for fleet maintenance, tires, and continue with the fuel on it. So I'm asked for y'all's permission to continue.
Okay. Any questions?
Where does the 20% matchup come from?
It was put into the grant, correction, it was put in by GOHS from the get-go that they would fund 100% for a year or two, and then they would, it's like a seed grant. They're just planting something. Then they said that if the fatality rate fluctuates any, they would adjust the grant to that fluctuation.
Okay, but there's a match of 20%. That's a difference of almost $27,000. I was curious, who pays that? We do. We do, or the Sheriff's Department? The Sheriff's budget, or?
I'm not familiar.
That is in our budget.
It's in the budget. Already.
But we knew that when we originally approved the heat grant.
Correct.
I mean, this is not anything.
It's not an addition. We knew that, yeah, you're correct. We knew that this would be the case.
We knew that they would be a 20%. They funded 100% the first year, then the second year it was going to drop down to 80%.
Last year being the first year.
We knew that.
We managed to offset the impact quite a bit by adding, when we originally started out, there wasn't contingencies for vehicle maintenance, tires and so forth. And we upped it for the cars were getting out of warranty, and also we upped up the all the maintenance for it to help offset the impact.
Any other questions?
I find it interesting that that the fatalities with blood alcohol content of 0.08 has gone down. So, I mean, the deaths that we're seeing on our roads are not necessarily now drinking and driving. Do you think that's more of distracted driving?
You're absolutely right and everything. The DUI enforcement has been extreme, and the DUIs of the heat team and the sheriff's department and Valdosta City has dropped, and the DUI counts are starting to drop down and everything. The majority of the fatalities coming up on distracted driving, and the number one contributors, the texting while driving.
I think it's shown that a lot of deaths is due to the speed of the impact. Yeah. And that's basically what they were actually addressing, not as much DUI as they were aggressive driving, high-speed driving, those sort of things.
This information says in 2013, Lowndes County recorded an unprecedented lowest rate in fatalities. What happened during that period?
In 2012, the county commission approved the speed grant, which bring on the sheriff bring on 4 deputies at no cost to GOHS, and they went out there and did the same thing as the heat grant, except they directed their attention to all traffic incidents: DUIs, seat belts, speeding, distracted driving, and there was 4 patrols assigned at that time, and in the sheriff department patrol vehicles. There weren't no specially marked vehicles.
Just a higher level of enforcement, fortunately, brought the fatalities down.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just a quick question for Joe. Budgetary impact on this form is basically just 106?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the continuation of the high enforcement of aggressive traffic team, grant. Sorry about that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the continuation of the high enforcement of aggressive traffic, the HEAT team. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call a vote. All in favor, signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, agenda item 8, County Manager's Report. Mr. Pritchard.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, it has been brought to our attention that I believe Commissioner Marshall and maybe Commissioner Griner will be attending the ACCG legislative meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. At that time, it would be necessary to delegate a representative from Lowndes County Commission to vote on items that are brought forth for the legislative consideration by the commission. And I think Commissioner Marshall intends to be there for that day. I'm not sure.
Yes.
Clay,
I'm going, but I'm not sure I'll be there.
for that.
Yeah.
So
So,
if,
Mr. Marshall, would you then be willing to be the designated voting delegate?
Yes. Yes, sir.
I nominate Mr. Marshall.
You nominate Mr. Marshall? Okay. Mr. Marshall, thank you for doing that. I
Only because
appreciate
you're going to be the only one there.
that's all.
Okay. Do we have any citizens wishing to be heard? None. Okay. I believe we got some discussion that the commissioner would like to discuss.
Yes, sir. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known exactly what a Water and Sewer Authority did. But since our SDS talks and everything that's going on with that, I've done some research, and I want to bring this to everybody's attention, and y'all probably know some of these, but I just kind of want to clarify some of the stuff that what a Water and Sewer Authority does, and how they're structured. Well, they could be structured all kind of different ways. For example, the Brunswick-Glenn County Water and Sewer Commission, along with the Donaldsonville, Douglas County Sewer Authority. They basically handle all the water and sewer for the county and the cities and bill directly to the individual houses or customers or whoever it is. Where the Upper Oconee Basin Water Authority and the Cobb County Marietta Water Authority are more wholesale pieces. They basically provide all the infrastructure and then turn around and sell the water to the cities or the counties. And they turn around and bill their constituents, bill their customers. So there's all kind of different ways you can structure one. My thoughts, after doing some research on this, is this might be a possible solution to our SDS issue with water and sewer in the county, as well as a possible economic benefit to the whole county as well, because you're only going to have one person or really one entity that's providing water and sewer. And like I said, we set the billing up to where the cities and the counties bill the individual people, or it can do it itself. That's irrelevant at this point, but I think it's something that we need to look at and go and delve deeper into with the cities to see if this might solve our problems with SDS and economic development. One of the things that we've talked about, of course, is the growth of the city's system, that they want to grow that system. And this would allow everybody to be on the same system. Eventually, you'd have from Hayhire all the way down to Lake Park, one system, if it worked out like you want it to. And like I said, there's all kind of ways to do it, as far as you can appoint members, you can elect members to the authority. They can be appointed by the grand jury or appointed by the local governments. There's all kind of ways. So if somebody says that we can't do a water and sewer system, a water and sewer authority here, that's not true, because any way you can think of to set it up, you can basically set it up that way. So without us actually sitting down with the municipalities and talking about this, we don't know if we can do it or not. We don't know if it makes sense for everybody or not. but there's got to be some point that we can sit down and talk about this as a community and see if it makes sense. Just like the Parks and Rec Authority has made sense when we did it and is doing really well now, this could possibly do the same thing for water and sewer in our community. Questions?
Commissioner, would this authority be a separate entity as far as needing an office, employees, et cetera, et cetera? And bring in, require a millage?
Depending on how we set it up. As of right now, there are 54 water and sewer authorities in the state of Georgia. 15 of them are independent and multi-jurisdictional, which is what we would be looking at, is what we would need as a multi-jurisdictional place, the city of Valdosta, Lowndes County, possibly Hayhire, possibly Lake Park. So it need to be multi-jurisdictional, and if it's multi-jurisdictional, it needs to be independent. Now, the level of employees would be based on whether it's a wholesale, and wholesales it back to the 6 customers that it could possibly have, or whether it does all the billing itself. If it does all the billing itself, it's going to need more staff. I mean, it's just, you're going to have more people in accounting and everything else to go along with that.
How do we deal with and manage the current debt on that new treatment plant that the city has out there?
Well, there's different ways to look at that too. You could look, and my thoughts are, and like I said, these are just my thoughts. My thoughts is you get an evaluation of what the city's assets are, minus its debt or liabilities that it has, and that's its value. You do the same thing with the county system. Look at the total assets, look at the debt we've got on ours, and see what the value is. And in some counties, it's actually been purchased. It could be purchased over a time, 15, 20, 30-year period of time to buy those assets from the city or the county or whatever those assets are worth. Some of them, it looks like Brunswick-Glenn County just took theirs and combined them together. So that's all up in the air too. You don't really, we can structure it any way we want to as far as whose assets are whose and where they come from. But like I said, in the fairest way would probably to get all the assets evaluated, basically get their system evaluated like it was its own business, and get our system evaluated the same way and say this is what it's worth, and then go from there.
But essentially, all the infrastructure would be, I hate to use the word donated, but contributed to the Water Sewer Authority, and then they become the holders of those assets, and then they build, they do, and get I guess our goal would be, for the benefit of the entire community, would be to get one, not to add layers of bureaucracy or whatever term you want to use to that, but just to put it in the hands of an authority, because it's been proven before through, like you said, Parks and Rec did really well.
Well, it would take this intergovernmental agreement we had today, that we did for Lake Park, the one we approved today. It would take that out of the question. The authority, if they could run the water and sewer lines to that piece of property, they would run it. And then, like I said, however we structured it, if we structured it where the authority sells the water and sewer to Lake Park, then they would just add on to Lake Park's utility bills every month, and Lake Park would send them a bill every month for their utilities. If the authority actually sent out the bill, then the authority would send the bill out to them. So instead of having to have an intergovernmental agreement, when you wouldn't need those, you could structure it, like I said, if the people live inside the city of Valdosta, then really and truly the Water and Sewer Authority sell it to the city of Valdosta, and the city of Valdosta turn around and sell it to the individual.
Mr. Bradley, there are some very positive aspects. I have felt that it would be the case that it could resolve some issues. But also at the same time, with the positive things, there are also some negative sides. I would have a big concern about what the citizens of the community would have to end up paying for water and sewer when you add this extra layer, with the authority. If you took the wholesale aspect of it, they can't operate in a negative. In order to grow the system, they themselves are going to have to generate revenue. So that's going to cost. And then you add on the layer of profitable dollars back to the municipalities and back to the county, then what I see is really we could get into a situation where the citizens in this community could be paying an extremely high amount for water and sewer, simply because of the creation of that. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that under this, it's going to take a tremendous amount of research. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. I think I do believe that it has some merit to continue the research on it. But certainly, at the end of the day, is that I would have a concern is how will the citizens in the unincorporated areas of Lowndes County continue to be getting assurance that we would be able to serve the needs for those citizens? I have some concerns that you have a lot higher density of citizens, certainly in the municipalities, from a density standpoint, and there's needs that needs to be met in all the municipalities. Lake Park, Valdosta, Ahira. Dasher, for example, has no services. They certainly would like to have services. So you're going to be looking at a situation that there's going to be a lot of expense to go into all of that. Then are we going to have some assurances that the unincorporated areas, the citizens that choose to live outside of the cities, do we have some assurances in there, or would we have assurances that they would be able to get the revenue to grow their system or that part of the system out in the unincorporated area so that they would still be able to have the services so that subdivisions can be developed, folks that want to live in a subdivision, certainly folks that live on a larger acreage tract, it's the same scenario now. They have the ability to put in well and septics. Some can't always do that. So I would have a concern about what the increase in that cost overall is going to be.
Well, I agree, Chairman. There are always considerations when you're looking at that. Most of the water and sewer systems in Georgia run off of their proceeds from their entity.
They're enterprise funds.
They're enterprise funds. They don't have tax dollars to support them. And just like our water and sewer system and the city of Valdosta's water and sewer system over the last, say, 20 years, has produced money to go back into and support growth. Both systems have done that over the last, with the rates we've had previously. So I really feel like, the business, it's going to be run like a business entity as not necessarily to break even, but to generate enough funds every year for growth and debt repayment, whether it's to us or whether it's to the bank or whatever. But then you'd also have the ability to go out and borrow money to put in, say, a big project came up that is inside the city of Valdosta that needed them to stretch that water and sewer 200 yards. Well, they could go out and borrow the money if they needed to pay for that 200 yards of water and sewer lines to make that situation work. And it's going to work similar. You have one entity, which would be, you'd have one entity making those decisions for the county with the whole system supporting itself versus two that are kind of competing at this point.
Yeah. Please understand me. I'm not here to. I'm here to just put the issues out. I don't want to throw a wet blanket over it because
I agree.
It has its merits. But as much as anything, in a situation of where we may be at the current time, and research will prove out which way we need, how it will develop. But I have some concerns of whether or not we're 20 years late on this opportunity. Certainly because of different things that have developed in the municipalities, as well as where we're at with potential growth in the unincorporated areas.
Yes.
So those are just going to have to be some obstacles that certainly is going to merit the study and that we're going to have to look after and see how we can get through them. But, I would say that at this point that if you want to continue researching on it, continue looking at it, have some conversations with councilmen and different ones in the community to try to see if you can build support for it, then I think that's fine and that's the direction we need to move in.
Mr. Griner, do you know if our water sewer, this may be for Mr. Stalvey, is standing on its own feet? Are we strapped with that? Are we self-sufficient?
Our water and sewer system right now is self-sufficient.
Oh, sorry.
Well, we wouldn't be selling the assets to the authority. We would be, you would donate those assets to the authority, right? It's not like either any of the municipalities or us would make money off of a system that's an enterprise fund that's being funded by the end user, right? So when we talk about debt, we're only talking about debt that's
Scotty, in the Douglas case, they actually bought, the authority actually bought the systems from the two government entities.
Like Mr. Griner was saying, there's a lot of different ways you can put that puzzle together and it still fit. And those are the sort of things that's going to take a lot of work to bring all those pieces together, so.
I just appreciate you bringing it up.
I think it has merit, at least at this point. I do have my reservations and some serious concerns that I feel like will need to be addressed, but I think it has merit to move forward.
Well, there's still a lot of work to be done, but I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention and see, and try to bring to light what the possibilities of one could be, and that it might be a situation that
We have I would
might
say
be a
this,
solution.
unless there's any other discussion, if you want to go any further with it, she occasionally comes in and tries to hide in the crowd, and she did an excellent job of it today, but I need to recognize Ms. Tooley with Valdosta City Council is here, so I think you just made your presentation to one of the municipality councilmen.
Where is she? Oh, I didn't even say, she was.
Welcome again, as always. You hid from me. I'm sorry I didn't see you when you came in.
Chairman, we have some leadership lounge folks here too.
Oh, Leadership Lounge folks here too? Please stand and be recognized.
Stand and be recognized.
You picked the best meeting out of the year. Thank you. I appreciate the efforts that you're putting forward for Leadership Lounge. I'm sure you're getting a lot out of it. You're enjoying it a lot. But it is a great organization. They do a lot of good work, and you'll get in it what you put, or get out of it what you put in it. So again, appreciate you doing that. So thank you for coming tonight. Any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.